yet another video. My God, I am treating you well. Anyway, this is about the process of me actually moving off a narrowboat in the UK to Cambodia. So here we go. Those of you that have seen my earlier videos will know that I lived on a 57-foot long narrowboat by 7-foot wide narrowboat based on a UK marina in Scaresbury, which is between Armstock and Southport. For various reasons, I decided to move to a more affordable and, may I say, less controlled country with better weather. Cambodia, for me, fits all three. Cambodia is a small country, has a terrible recent history, a very cultural older history, goes back thousands of years, goes back to the Khmer Empire, which was a big empire in its time. It's also a country blessed with a friendly, non-judgemental population. And another advantage of emigrating to Cambodia is it's easy to get into. Yes, you will need a visa, without doubt, but you can get a visa on arrival, you can get a visa before you arrive. I think I've done a video on that, and the journey as well, but you might as well look at this. There's no financial requirement, unlike some other countries. For example, Thailand. I don't think Thailand actually wants any visitors anyway anymore. But having said that, I wouldn't come to Cambodia with no money. You don't want to get a reputation of being a scrounger off locals or off expats. I mean, they'll only put up with it so long. You can't do it. And I don't intend to do it. I don't want to be known as that. I don't want to be known as a scammer either. And that's basically it. The next bit will be about how I plan my journey. So bye for now. So you've made the big decision and you're deciding to get out of a broken UK, as I call it. Now you've got to decide where you're going. I spent a lot of time on the internet looking this up. But once you've made the decision as to where to emigrate to, what you've got to do is stick with it. It's a bit like getting married, isn't it? You just got to say your vows and try and stick with them. Unfortunately, I've been divorced twice. That didn't quite work, did it? Anyway, there it is. So take your time, and for God's sake, do it sober. How many times have we done stuff and we've had a drink and thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that? Yes, you know. Consider whether you can afford the move, whether you meet the entry requirements, and where you're going. Is it going to be easy? Do I need enough? Have I got enough money? Da-da-da-da-da. But the biggest problem is if you're not going solo, does everybody in the party you're going with agree with you? Because if they don't, they're just going to ruin it. And that's really, really important. Everybody's got to be on board with your move or your desires. I was lucky I was solo. I didn't have to go through that process. But if you do, be very careful of that. So here we are on planning the journey. Before I moved, I was in the somewhat enviable position of having downsized once already, moving from a house to a narrowboat. But I can almost guarantee that during the process of downsizing or decluttering, or calling it whatever you want, you will come across stuff you think it's important that you haven't used in years and you're probably never going to use again. So just take my advice and get rid of it. Alright? Next bit of the video will be on deciding where I'm going. See you in a bit. So, we've now decided to move. Everybody's on board, etc. Everything's agreed and we're all getting excited, aren't we? Yes, we are. Right. First thing I did, and I would advise you to do the same, it's a good thing to do, is tell everyone you know that you've booked the journey. It's not easy to get out of then. If you don't tell anybody, nobody knows, are they? Nobody's going to say anything. So bear in mind that the less legs in your journey, and I would book it with as few stopovers as you can. And I think I couldn't do it. I had to have one stopover. The less legs you have, the less stress it's going to be. The other thing to consider is if you book with the same airline for multiple legs of your journey, you don't have to move your cases about. You don't have to go and collect them on the carousel and all that. They just can automatically move to the next plane you're on if it's with the same airline. Bear it in mind. And that's it. For booking the journey, I went on Google Flights and I went on Skyscanner. I think there are loads of availabilities. The flight prices, etc., did vary for me massively. I think there's an earlier video on booking my flight, but anyway, it's there. So, the next step in our move is to declutter and downsize. As I mentioned earlier, I downsized a bit when I moved onto the boat, but I've still managed to accumulate a load of shit that I can't take with me. So I suppose it depends on where you're moving to. In my case, my destination was Cambodia, which is 6,000 miles away. And my whole baggage allowance was 22 kilograms, plus about 7 kilograms in a carry-on, I suppose. So I didn't take any heavy clothing, apart from what I was wearing, which I threw away at Singapore airport, as I mentioned in an earlier video. Remember, it's hot. The documents and phone, they were in my carry-on, just so they were handy. The laptop, underwear, towels, t-shirts, etc., all in the whole luggage. If you are weight limited, as I was, then everything you bring has to be considered. It really does. Is it really necessary? If it's not, don't bring it. Most things that are going to be available in your destination country, alright, they may be harder to find, they may be slightly more expensive, they may be slightly cheaper, you never know. But the thing to remember is that when you die, you can't take any of this shit with you. None of it. All you can take is your soul. Maybe I'm religious, which I'm not. Anyway, so you might as well sell what you can, give away what you can. You've decluttered, you've desized, you've downsized, you've downcluttered, you've done whatever it is the wording is. I'm sure that, anyway, you know what I mean. Right, the next step is, I think step 3 is to plan your finances before you go. I'm in Cambodia, I can't plan now without pretend I'm in the UK, and I'm not in the UK, am I? Right, so assuming that your plan is for a long stay in the destination of your choice, in my case it was Cambodia, the thing you will need access to is money. From your bank in England or wherever, the UK or America, wherever you're coming from. When I was still in the UK, I got an international debit card. I used Starling, there are others, and I put some money in the account. The beauty of that is that I can actually use that card in Cambodia if I need to. I think I've done videos on it or whatever before. The other thing you might need is have a bit of money in the local currency. I'm in Cambodia. They have two currencies, the dollar and the Cambodian riel. You can't get the riel outside of Cambodia anyway. And if you take dollars, you've got to make sure that they're ultra clean and try and get low denomination. I think I took about couple of $100 or something like that, but in small dollar bills, mostly ones, fives and tens. In Cambodia, I mean, it's not actually, or it shouldn't actually apply anymore, but it still does. The locals don't bother with it. You've got to be very, very clean, very crisp, untorn, unwritten on dollar bills. Reals, they just don't bother about. You're paying dollars and you will get reals and change. Don't worry about it, you can spend in reals. And that's basically it. The thing not to do is to use your existing UK bank or whichever country bank account abroad, because they'll charge you the earth for it. Like I said, I use a Sterling account. What I do is I transfer money from my Santander UK account into my Sterling account for no transfer fees, and then I can use my Sterling account in Cambodia. Well, I can actually do it online now, but it doesn't make any difference. Still get charged something. Works out about 1 3/4, 1.5%, I can't remember what. And you're going to get charged that. There's no way around that. So the journey begins. Each person in your group will need their passports and a boarding pass. My flight to Singapore was long haul, so I had to be there 3 hours early. I think it's 2 hours for a short haul. Anyway, I was there 3 hours. So I checked in, done my case, my hold luggage, got my boarding pass, and then as I'm looking around, I realised I qualified for assisted travel. I think it's a registered disability or over 70 years of age, so I was over 70, not telling you I'm old. Anyway, if you do get assisted travel, what happens is you'll bypass the customs and boarding queues because you go down a different channel, a lot less busy. You also get taken right to the gate, and when you get to the gate, you are the first to get on the plane. Yes, you get on the plane first. So if you've got that available to you, I recommend you take it. I really do. And that's just it, basically. And that's the start of your journey. One thing, I had booked a window seat, and I was actually sat at the window. So getting on the plane first didn't cause a problem because I just got straight to the window, so I didn't have to get up and let anybody else pass me or anything. So just something to consider when you book your flight. If you are going to be assisted travel, get a window seat, then you don't have to move. Alright, you might have to move later to have a pee or whatever you want to do. But there you are. Right. So we've negotiated getting on and off the plane. I did have a change, and I don't know whether I mentioned it earlier, but if you fly with the same airline, I flew with Singapore Air. From Manchester to Singapore, then from Singapore to Siem Reap, all with Singapore Airlines. So my baggage just got transferred from one plane to the other. I think the Manchester to Singapore flight was an Airbus, and the Singapore to Siem Reap was a Boeing 737. But my baggage was just transferred automatically. What you have to remember is when you collect your baggage at Siem Reap on your arrival, it's probably going to be last off the plane because it probably went first on the plane because it was transferred from your other plane to that plane, if you get what I mean. So don't be disappointed if your case arrives relatively late. Anyway, so you've arrived. So you've either got your visa on arrival. In Cambodia, you get your visa on arrival if you want. I got mine early and I had a bit of a trouble, but it's in another video somewhere. So you collect your luggage, and then you've got to get to where you're going to spend your first night. I think I've covered this in an earlier video as well. I did just to be on the safe side. I booked 2 nights in a guest house. I didn't know it was bloody autumn festival or winter festival or some bloody festival, all the bloody roads were shut. So it's something to check when you book your flight that you're not going to actually impinge on any local festivals. Anyway, I got there eventually due to a very diligent and helpful tuk-tuk driver, and I overtipped him. Anyway, and there you are, you're here. You're in Cambodia. Hello. Just an updated outro, really. I'm in Campot. It's filmed in the Campot apartment, boutique apartment, studio apartment, whatever you want to call it.